Patch 13.21 was yet another massive meta-shifting patch, most specifically for the top lane and jungle. There are a bunch of picks that have shot up in power for this patch, and we'll be breaking it all down and providing you guys with a complete update on the solo queue meta thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. It turns out the Tahm Kench buffs have landed a bit more overpowered than anticipated, so he's in need of a further push up the tier list for mid-patch. Tahm has gained over a few percentage points on his win rate due to the buff, which is quite substantial. If you didn't catch the change, Riot increased the bonus health ratio on Tahm's passive damage, so it makes his Heartsteel spike incredibly strong now. Tahm is quite literally slapping around a majority of the meta picks as a result of this buff, and it's really only Fiora and Mordekaiser who are giving Tahm players issues. Tahm plays incredibly well into meta champs like Malphite, Renekton, K'Sante, and Nasus, so he's a really great add to your champion pool. Play rate of Tahm is only around 2% right now, but we definitely expect that to rise as players recognize the strength of this buff, and we will be moving Tahm up into the top lane S tier to reflect that. For the first time in a long time, K'Sante is back in a strong spot for solo queue specifically. Of course, the champ has been a powerhouse in pro for a while, but that just never really translated into solo queue success until now. The buffs have led to K'Sante's win rate skyrocketing, and he's now in the upper echelon of top lane carries. Now, the champion is still a very high elo skewed pick due to his higher skill floor, but if you can pilot K'Sante well and spend the time on him, he's well worth picking up again. For Diamond and below, if you really want elo the fastest, there are still better options like Malphite, Nasus, and Ornn, who we have in the OP tier, but K'Sante is going to fall right in behind as a strong S tier pick for 13.21. Moving on to the top lane tier list, in the OP tier we have Malphite, Nasus, and Ornn, so nothing changes there from pre-patch. Other than Tahm and K'Sante moving up, there are a few minor adjustments elsewhere. Gwen is getting the bump into S tier as she's been flying a bit under the radar due to the anti-snowball patch, and with more tanks coming back into meta, it's always a positive for Gwen. Mundo nerfs have been a bit more detrimental than we originally expected, so he will be adjusted down into the top lane A tier for mid-patch. Top lane meta right now is primarily being dominated by champions who have strong scaling capabilities. Games now lasting longer means champs like Ornn, Kayle, Nasus, and Fiora have all seen a nice spike in power. A few of the best top lane bans of the patch are Garen, Aatrox, and Malphite. Malphite, Nasus, and Garen are who we have rated as the best low elo top laners. We really did not think Morgana needed an extra round of buffs for this patch, but Riot went ahead with them anyways, and she's now a borderline OP jungler. W damage to monsters being buffed repeatedly makes her clear quite good now, and there's not a ton of skill required to pick Morgana up. You can just full clear by throwing down W constantly, get to that level 6 as quick as possible, and then your skirmish becomes pretty strong. Early levels is where Morg can be exploited by invade plays, so getting an early ward down to make sure you're not being invaded is important. Morg jungle is finding success in every single elo bracket right now, and she's going to be bumped up into the jungle S tier for 13.21. Kha'Zix's power level has flip-flopped back and forth drastically over the past 2 patches. Prior to the 13.20 changes, Ka was an S tier jungler, but then when Riot removed the AD ratio from pet DPS while nerfing Duskblade and Gustwalker, his win rate plummeted. Fast forward to 13.21, and Ka has seen a big spike in win rate, this time due to Riot adding back the AD ratio to pet DPS and a new optimal setup emerging. Now that Duskblade has been nerfed while Ghostblade was buffed, you really want to be prioritizing Ghostblade for your mythic item. Umbral Glaive Rush into Ghostblade second is a really nice 2-item core for Kha'Zix now. Lots of positives for Kha'Zix in 13.21, and he will be moved back up into an S tier position. Every now and then a champion ends up getting nerfed, but their win rate doesn't actually end up reflecting the changes at all, and that has been the case with Briar in 13.21. Nerfs have been extremely negligible, and Briar remains on top of the jungle meta. AD ratio being added back to pet DPS is likely the main reason to why the direct nerfs did not actually hurt as bad. There's also a new Ghostblade build that is picking up some traction on Briar and seeing really good success right now. It's actually the same build we have been seeing on Lethality Caitlyn, with a Ghostblade Rush into the Collector second and Lord Dom's third. Of course, you run Hail of Blades for the Keystone Rune with this setup to amplify that burst power. Overall, Briar is a very versatile champ right now and has not been torn down by the direct nerfs, so she's going back into the jungle OP tier for mid-patch. So if we have a look at the jungle tier list, it's going to be Graves, Briar, and Nocturne locking down OP tier spots. AD ratio back back on pet DPS has been quite big, and as a result, the AD junglers that we have in the OP tier are now higher priority than a tank like Zac, which is why he drops down. Rammus nerfs have landed a bit more harsh than we originally expected, so he's going to be pushed further down the tier list from S into A. It's actually pretty nuts the swing in win rates we are seeing for certain champions over the past 2 patches, as Rammus ended up dropping about 5% due to the 13.21 nerfs. As for the Brand and Zyra jungle buffs for this patch, they've landed about where we expected. Brand is looking like a pretty average jungle pick right now and remains in the B tier. Zyra, on the other hand, is having a more difficult time finding any success with the buffs, so she's going to be placed in the jungle C tier. Learning how to exploit jungle timings can really take your game to another level, so our latest course on the topic is now live on our website to help you guys out. A few of the best jungle bans of the patch include Briar, Graves, and Evelynn. Rammus, Shyvana, and Lilia are 3 of the most optimal low elo junglers. There's not a whole lot going on for mid lane in 13.21, but this new Katarina setup is an exception. There's a couple of interesting new trends going around right now. The first being that Doran's Blade's start is winning way more than anything else. Dark Seal is the most popular rush item on Katarina, but it's only got a 50% win rate. Doran's Blade, on the other hand, has a 53% win rate and is outperforming Dark Seal in every single elo bracket. Of course, Doran's Blade was just heavily buffed, which is the main factor for this shift in meta. If you're unfamiliar with Kat, even though she typically builds AP, all of her abilities have AD ratios, which makes going for this Doran's Blade rush viable. Now, it's not just the Doran's Blade rush that is picking up traction. Kat Evolved and many other high elo Katarina mains have been running this tank bruiser mix of a build. Heart Steel is the rush item with Titanic Hydra 2nd and either Demonic Embrace or Sunfire Aegis 3rd. Now that snowballing is not as prevalent due to the 13.20 patch, it's made going for this tank build that has strong scaling capabilities a really solid option now. There were just 2 mid lane champions directly changed for 13.21, so the meta has not shifted a whole lot. OP tier is being slightly adjusted for mid patch, as we are removing Vex while leaving Kassadin and Naafiri. With these longer ranged mages like Orianna making a huge push back into meta, it has been detrimental to Vex. Syndra and Orianna specifically have extremely high play rates in 13.21, so it's a lot more difficult to blind pick Vex and see good results. Vex is still a godlike pick in the melee mids, but she's just not OP tier worthy anymore and drops down into S. Aurelion Sol and LeBlanc were the only 2 mid lane champions changed for this patch, and the adjustments have played out close to expectations. LeBlanc is still a pretty underwhelming mid lane champ for solo queue, as the buffs really haven't been too noticeable. As a result, we continue to rate LeBlanc as a C tier pick. As for Aurelion Sol, the champion has lost a considerable amount of power and is definitely no longer the OP pick that he was in 13.20. We're going to be further adjusting Aurelion Sol down the tier list for mid patch, moving him from S into A tier. A few of the most optimal mid lane bans for 13.21 include Kassadin, Naafiri, and Sylas. You can't go wrong with Malzahar, Aurelion Sol, or Annie if you're looking to climb out of low elo. The AD meta for 13.21 is looking very similar to where it was last patch, so let's jump right into the tier list. OP tier is once again locked down by just 2 champions, being Ziggs and Vayne. Ziggs is the free elo machine down in the bot lane, as he's extremely hard to punish and has been lifted to another level due to the 13.20 buffs. Our challenger expert 6axe has a brand new full game commentary for Ziggs that has just been uploaded to our website this week, which can help you out a ton if you're looking to pick up Ziggs. Jinx nerfs have played out to our expectations, as she is no longer a super OP carry like in 13.20, but she's still holding on to a very powerful S tier position. Nerfs to Caitlyn have definitely shifted a lot of power back towards crit. However, lethality is still looking like a viable choice in the correct spots. Last patch, players would just autopilot lethality Cait regardless of enemy compositions, but now if you're against a tankier comp, it's hard to pass up going for crit. Into a more squishy oriented comp, lethality is still great, and it's actually really nice that both builds are on equal levels now, so good Cait players that can pilot both get rewarded the most. Cait is going to be moved back to the ADC A tier for mid patch, as the nerfs ended up being more of a power shift than anything else. Varus was the only other ADC change for this patch, and the buffs have been very underwhelming. Nothing to write home about, and Varus will continue to be a lower percentile ADC pickup placed in the B tier. A few of the highest priority bot lane bans of the patch are Jinx, Vayne, and Ziggs. Ziggs, Misfortune, and Ashe are a few picks we would recommend the most for the lower ranks. 13.21 for support was also pretty uneventful, similar to ADC, as there has not been any meta-breaking movement. OP tier is being locked down by Zyra, Blitzcrank, and Senna. On paper, it seemed as if the Zyra changes would end up detrimental for support, but she has continued to perform very well this patch and will be moved back into OP. As a result of the Zyra changes, Q max has become much stronger now and has gained a few percentage points in win rate, while an E max has lost some win rate. Since Riot nerfed the damage on E at max rank, but buffed the damage on Q at max rank, it makes prioritizing a Q max first much better value. value now. Overall, the changes have turned out power neutral, as it's just the order in which you max your abilities that has shifted strength. The Seraphine buffs haven't really moved the needle all that much, and we will be leaving her in the A tier for mid-patch. Like the Zyra changes, the Seraphine adjustments were a power shift more than anything else, and have not led to the champion gaining very much relative strength. The champions that should be banned the most from the support role right now include Senna, Blitzcrank, and Rakan. Heimerdinger, Zyra, and Blitz are cut above everyone else when it comes down to an effective low elo carry. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into Elo Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's going to be all for the latest update on the solo queue tier list as we reach the midway point of 13.21. Thanks for watching, everyone. Good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you back soon.